Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hello, Vigetis, Kalispera, Kalimera. So I'm waiting for everybody to join in our healing aggressive dog behavior workshop. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. So hi, this is Roman with Holistic Dog Training, and I'm super excited that I'm here invited today to join this workshop. And I'm also super excited and so grateful for Ruby to make this actually awesome event, this virtual dog conference happening. Super excited about it. So, how about you guys share where you guys are from? Maybe you want to grant permission for StreamYard to show your name. There's no other data shared. I know you guys are pretty picky about that. And I'm looking forward to be part of your experience today. And I'll wait a couple of minutes until more people sign up here. Good. Maybe you want to tap in the comments where you're from. Let me start it. Maybe it's... Actually, I cannot make comments on here on my side. So I'm looking forward for your comments. If you guys have any questions, please put it in the comments. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? So, yep, that's me. Hi there. This is Roman with Holistic Dog Training, and today, it's that direction. We have healing aggressive dog behavior through secure attachment, relationship based on other things that we're going to talk about. It is a very intense presentation. I try to put a lot of information in there. I'll try to keep it short as it can happen. Likely we're going to be here about an hour plus, 1.5 hours. So if you guys want to take quick care of your dogs, make sure they have enough water, they don't bother you during this workshop, that'll be very helpful. I wish you guys can join here the screen. I haven't figured that out yet, but we're getting there. So I think we should ready to start, right? Can you guys comment? I don't see that. I don't see if you guys can comment things on my side. So I guess I'm gonna try to watch the group and see if the comments show up in there. Okay, I see what's happening. We had a almost 5-minute delay on that video. So I guess I'm gonna start. Thank you for joining the group today. And let's get going. Let me figure out how to do that actually. Okay, I think let's do that. I think here it is. Okay, I think we got this. So, I take in consideration that we have almost 5-minute presentation delay. I'm gonna start anyway. Let's see how that goes. So welcome to our workshop pro series, Healing Aggressive Dog Behavior. I'm Roman with Holistic Dog Training. I'm a certified dog trainer, Reiki master teacher, and I'm a holistic canine behaviorist. So I want to share with you what I have experienced so far in regards to healing aggressive dog behavior. So what we're going to talk about today, let's make that a little bit bigger. We're going to talk about the main reason why dogs become aggressive, and it's probably not what you think it is. What episodic memory is and how it affects your dog's behavior. We're going to talk about how to troubleshoot aggression and reactivity, how to improve communications with your dog, and how adult attachment styles affect your dog's behavior. We will also discuss what to do instead of positive training techniques that I believe sometimes set your dog and yourself for failure. We will also teach your dog routines, job description, and rituals that will change his life. We will also talk about trauma and trauma brain and how to help your dog navigate through a PTSD response. How canine ancestral trauma, yep, you heard right, canine ancestral trauma affect dogs' behavior. We will talk about how your own emotional trauma affects your dog, the energy of aggression and stuck trauma. And the question will be, can you find and release stuck trauma or stuck energy? And of course, we're going to talk about some energy healing modalities that you should have in your toolbox. So, meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the comments. Again, we have a 5-minute delay on that audio because it goes through UK and I'm in US. Interesting, right? So, let's be clear here. It's self-evident that parents have more power than their offspring. This is unavoidable biological fact, right? And the reason why I'm starting with this is because if dogs come into life, the first thing they do is they create a secure attachment relationship because, again, their parents have the power for them to survive. So that's why that secure attachment relationship will make a huge difference as we talk about today in our workshop. So let's talk about a little bit about what exactly is aggression. And we go to the one who basically knows best, I guess, Konrad Lorenz, and he proposed an aggression, that the theory that violence is something good and necessary for all animals' self-defense, that will be the reason why species have developed this mechanism of behavior over the centuries. So for you guys who want to get rid of aggression, don't. We need aggression. The animals need aggression. But what we're going to do today is basically help the dog not getting there at the first place, so we don't need to touch it at all at the first place. So, what causes aggression in general? We know epigenetics. We know ancestors are responsible for many, many reasons of dogs having that aggression in their toolbox. Health, handling, domestic violence, food, trauma, loss, rehoming, physical and emotional abuse. These are kind of examples to share with you what aggression, how aggression can happen. But the deeper meaning of that is to understand the two main factors. The first one is to survive, and the other one is survive. That's why dogs offer behaviors. And some of them behaviors can look like aggression, but usually they're not. So we perceive it as aggression because we are the receiver of those behaviors and we feel threatened. Therefore, we call it aggression. So I want you to be a little bit sensitive about when you use that term aggression. I don't usually use that term aggression because for me, aggression is an emergency situation. So if we're dealing with a situation in a dog behavior, it's usually something that happened in the past. So we're not talking about aggression when we're dealing with a dog. We talk about behaviors, and we talk about functional behaviors. And how do they start to start with? Well, they start the first thing with a secure attachment. Everything that happens around the dog is to build a relationship with his environment. And so in that case, it will be with his parents, this emotional relationship with his guardian. And guardians don't have to be always dogs. Guardians can be also people. So it starts with usually a dog relationship, mother and child, or mother and dog. We have been through that, right? And then after adoption, that attachment has to be redirected towards the person that is the adopter. Now, the problem here is that usually we miss that sensitive period of creating a strong bond and a secure attachment relationship, and that causes in the future problems that we now discuss to avoid. So, meanwhile, I see after almost 4 minutes that we're getting people here on our workshop. And again, this is Roman with Holistic Dog Training, and we talked about how to heal aggression by using secure attachment relationship. So now the question is, can you condition secure attachment relationship? No, you cannot. You can't force a secure attachment relationship because it grows within the dog and the person, or between the dog and the dogs. And just because you have a dog in the family and you move in another dog into that household doesn't mean they have to have a secure attachment relationships. There are different types of relationships. We're going to talk about that later. So, some facts, so you don't think I'm kind of talking around here. Study shows that the proportion of secure and insecure classifications in dogs and animals are similar. It is 61% dogs feel secure with their caregivers and 39% not. So usually what you're dealing with as a behaviorist or trainer is with those 39%, because those have most likely the problem that we have to deal with. When we don't talk about obedience, right? We're talking about behaviors that needs to be addressed. So the next thing we want to clarify is, what is the attachment process? First of all, the attachment process is interactive. Let me share myself here to the screen so you guys much better like that. So the secure attachment process is interactive, is dynamic, is an exchange of non-verbal emotional cues. So while some people try to be the pack leader, I know you're not, but I'm just saying most of them trying to be somehow forcing themselves into those relationships by coming from an aspect, yeah, you know, I adopted you, you have to comply. This is gonna happen at all. So it has to become something from inside the animal towards you, from the dog towards the relationship. It is full of emotions and emotional cues. So it's very important for your dog and yourself to recognize it's really about emotional cues, and stay away from conditioning at that point, because you cannot condition those things because they're unconditional. And again, unconditional love is what we're looking for here. And I know that term is very difficult to express. It's a kind of a taboo word. I use it and I'm very proud of it. Yes, you're practicing love with your animal, with your dog, full of emotions, full of emotional cues. It includes your tone, your voice, your gestures, full of routine, roles, and rituals. And we're going to talk about why it's important. Because using those tools, those routines, those role plays, and those rituals is the way to move your dog away from fear and stress and reactivity, so you will be able to address aggression. So attachment process includes, yes, you heard right, barking, whining, pawing, front paw lifting, perking ears, softening eyes, wagging, hiding the tail, yawning, shaking. Everything that a dog can actually do is part of the attachment process. So pay attention, because everything is important. So The attachment process is very, very simple. Both dogs and the caregivers watch and listen to each other's language and sounds. Like nothing different than going out for a date with your partner. You're sitting next to each other or on the other side of each other usually, and you start observing that relationship. You just don't come in and say, hey, this is what I want. This is what you want you're supposed to do, and I'm ordering for you. You're coming from a completely different aspect. You want to be honest. You want to share your language. You want to share what you like and what you don't like. So the other person on the other side learns how to navigate around that. So what it happens is a two-way communication start with in the very beginning. It includes your food, warmth, affection, everything that a person will exchange with another person. It's nothing different with a dog too, because both you and the dog are sentient beings and emotionally intelligent. Yes, you have a huge advantage, but don't underestimate the dog's capacity to reach you to that level that you haven't experienced yet. So secure attachment grows out of the success of this non-verbal communication between human and dog. So what are the components of secure attachment? Safe haven, separation distress, safe base, proximity maintenance. I sure have heard of it, but I just want you to be aware that that happens consistently all the time with all these mini gestures, and you are part of it all the time as a parent, as a trainer, as a consultant, as a caregiver. It doesn't matter. You are always part, because the dog, through his daily interactions with his environment, he has constantly to play different type of attachments with his litter mates, with his friends, with you, with your kids, with other pets in the household. It's a constantly interaction. So there's a constantly thing, am I safe? What's the situation? Am I close? Am I apart? Where is my safe base? Where is the proximity? Where's the maintenance? How do I maintain the whole relationship all the time? There's something that happens simultaneously. And let's clear something out. I know many people told me, and working for so many years online since 2009, I've heard many, many times those classic, my dog is attached to me because I adopted her, right? It's kind of like the dog has an obligation to this person to feel attachment, but it's not how it looks like. It has to be built. So unless you look and listen to your dog, the dog will not attach to you. And from scientific evidence, we know that a dog may try and average 42 times to attempt a communication task. And if that doesn't happen, the dog will give up. And it should be a new situation, a new event for the dog actually to start again that process. The other thing that I usually hear is dogs can have secure attachment bond with more than one person, with my wife, with my partner, with my kids. Right, kind of, sort of. Attachment, yes, but secure attachment, only one. And I don't know if who of you guys have children, or you are a child, of course, to your parent. You have one particular parent you're more in alignment to share your secrets, your pain, your fears. That is your secure attachment. It doesn't always have to be your own parent. It could be the grandparent, right? Or your best friend if you don't have a parent to refer to. So identify attachment type. Secure is the first one. This is our goal, right? And plays well with sibling, shows separation anxiety, but calms down if not alone. Excited when caregivers return, hard time leaving friends, right? So if your dog plays in the yard and he has a secure attachment with somebody of those dogs and the other dog stays outside, he will not come to you. It's because he has an attachment with that dog and he will be attempting to stay with that dog as long as possible. Some people take that as a wrong way, that these are a bonded pair, kind of, sort of ish. It's actually a secure attachment. Then we have avoidant or dismissive, independent, difficult connecting with dogs and people of the same age, disrespectful, challenges others, controlling, does not feel separation anxiety. It's kind of those dogs where you live and your dog doesn't even care. Okay, sometimes you want to talk about that, but the dog just walks away from it and totally ignores you. And then we have ambivalent, which is clingy, seems dominant, wants attention, jumping, nibbing, barking, easily frustrated. You see those dogs very often, I would say. I would say more than 60% of all those dogs are ambivalent. And then those difficult guys that you really, really struggle and those people get frustrated are the disorganized dogs. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So they have strange behaviors, are not consistent, they have lack of communications, they have difficulty transitioning from one space to the other, they have this difficult to understand the feelings like I'm biting your bone off and I don't care if you whine or scream about it, right? Sitting on the other dog's head. You know, you have seen those dogs. So these are disorganized. So you see suddenly by observing their behaviors, you can go back and identify what kind of attachment they have. So, what's the benefit of a secure attachment? Research shows that a secure attachment is the best possible foundation for a healthy physical, emotional, intellectual, and social development. A securely attached dog is curious and outgoing, freely able to explore in his or her environment. We know that a secure attachment greatly facilitates learning better social behavior in all levels, emotionally, physically, and behavioral environment. And why is this so important? Because if your dog doesn't have a secure attachment relationship or any attachment relationship with you, nothing is going to happen. You will be a stranger. So the first thing you do if you meet a dog is creating instinctively, most of you, secure attachment. Most of you are doing better, some of you not doing better, and that goal is from that workshop is for you to be actually as good as possible to bond with your dog in an instant, basically. Now, one thing that we have to be aware of, that sometimes we expect too much of a dog. So I want to discuss a little bit what is episodic memory. Episodic memory is defined as a memory system that receives and stores information about temporarily dated episode or events and temporal spatial relations among those events. That's not my idea, right? That's Tulving, 1972. So we know about these things for a very, very long time. Now we try to implement them at some point. When and where it happens. Dogs use odor cues to show episodic-like memory for what, where, and when things happening. So there is a time factor included to that, and there is a location included to that, and it's also what is happening. Now, how this episodic memory works, imagine a favorite movie that you're watching, and you know from the beginning of the letters coming down, you recognize that movie and you totally get the movie if you watch it once and once. So if you watch that movie once, you know the second time how the movie will end. Now, some of you who have trauma in your past, and I totally empathize with you, and I'm sorry you have been through this process. I'm a complex trauma survivor, not a victim, I'm a survivor. And my episodic memory starts with a scent. I just need to smell the situation and I know what's going to happen. And so the moment that kicks in, internally, my body system responds. My sympathetic nervous system responds. And I have to manage it. Now, if I would be a dog and I smelled, let's say, an example, a blind dog, and I smelled a dog that is foreign to me, and that dog approaches me, and I know I never smelled that smell before, I'm scared what's going to happen to me. Because last time that I was blind and somebody approached me that I thought was a friend and it was not a friend, and I couldn't see the cues that's going to happen and I couldn't smell the difference, I got attacked. Now from there on, it will be a forever memory. Now, what I do with that memory is important because depending on how I solve my problem, can I find a resolution to my problem or am I stuck in my problem? And that's what we have to deal with if we deal with aggression. Usually it's a stuck problem, and we have to release that. So example, let's say for example, leash aggression. The dog remembers when he was attacked by a stray dog, when he was on the leash with you on your last walk. Now the dog reacts while he's on the leash and sees another dog. That's episodic memory. And there's nothing to correct. Only thing you can do is heal that trauma that happened in the past by changing the outcome of the events in the present moment. First of all, you have to get the dog in the present moment, because right now, the moment that triggers, the dog is not in the present moment. He's in the past, and he projects in the future what's going to happen. Another example would be aggression towards strangers, and how many times the dog recalls the vet visit or the groomer visit or anything that happened in him going in a strange place, meeting strange people, and you are part of it. So now the dog doesn't trust you when introducing strangers. And that's the problem that we have to deal with. We don't have a good starting point. The other problem that we see very often, especially for young dogs, we say, well, I grew up my puppy, I hand fed him, I stick my fingers in his bowl and try to help him, not being resource guarding, and voila, here he goes. He is resource guarding. My dog is a jerk. My dog is a bad dog. My dog is aggressive. He has resource guarding. Not really. Likely not. What happened is you taught him, and he learned that no matter how he feels like, you're going to stick your hands in his food anyway. Now, because he has a secure attachment relationship with you, he may tolerate that because he sees that dependency. But at the end, what's going to happen? If somebody else tries to do that he doesn't have a secure attachment relationship, he's going to lash out on them. And then we call it resource guarding. And we don't understand what happened, because we proved him over time that if a puppy has a sock in his mouth, we're going to take it away. My hand will approach you. I will approach with my hand. I'm going to take it away from you. And now this episode is imprinted as people approaching me. They're going to take away what I have, what I value. Therefore, I have to guard it with my life. Where dogs struggle with trauma? Well, the first thing they do is they struggle with safety. The dog might doubt his ability to protect himself and others. That happens in leash, on house, with other pets, with strangers, right? And the other part is trust. The dog cannot trust dogs, cannot trust humans, or he cannot trust both. Why? Because he has this past experience. And usually it starts with lack of control. The dog might feel unable to control his own life and or influence the life of those he cares about. If we talk about that, for example, we talk about domestic violence, we talk about kennel environment, we talk about the use of averse tools like shock collars, prong collars, choke collars, halties, any other averse tools where the dog loses control of his environment. Then the other thing that dogs struggle with is their role in the family. So we have a dog in the family, but usually what's going to happen is the dog doesn't really have a role. All he has is a surprise. He doesn't know what time he will eat. He doesn't know what time do you go outside. There's nothing there that he can call it a role, like a job description, in other words. So he has no control of everything, not even who he is in that family system. And finally is the attachment. When a primary caregiver does not or cannot provide the dog adequate care, affection, and comfort, then that attachment is broken. And that is what dogs struggle with the trauma. So, mechanics of trauma. I'm going to watch a short video. I hope I will be able to have the sound on. Let me see if I can do that right. Hold on a second. Okay, I got this. Now we got this. Now we have a sound too. So, trauma can become the central defining experience that determines patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting. Patterns that persist after having been originally designed to navigate an unsafe world. So trauma-related patterns are held in place by automatic, non-conscious physical and psychological habits. Interesting, right? So what we do have, we have two final responses, a complete survival response and an incomplete survival response. What we see here is where in a complete survival response, the dog goes through a whole process of defensive-oriented behavior. He chooses fight or flight, and then discharge of sympathetic energy, meaning the dog has a resolution after he was startled. So startle, the behavior, the action, and the resolution. Now in the incomplete survival response, we have a problem. We have one factor that will stop the whole event from happening and the whole thing collapses. So after the startle event, we have a defense oriented, then we have a fight or flight situation, but it doesn't solve the problem. The situation gets out of control, the dog freezes, and that moment, that freeze response creates a no discharge of the sympathetic energy. So that energy is stuck on the dog's, and it's being processed in the dog's body. And because it cannot express itself, it's stuck. And we have to release that. We're going to talk about that later. So if you guys have the ability, comment in the comments if you can. I have no clue if you really can here. My apologies. I thought I had this under control, but I'm not sure if you guys can actually comment on that. Anyway, whatever your responses are or questions are, you may be able to comment in a direction that I cannot see right now, but I promise you I get back. However, you can comment in the comments outside of the video, and maybe we'll be able to see all those things. I don't see any comments anyway, but if so, I will check in back later. So the next thing is the video. Let's see. Oops. How do we do that? System processing. It's supposed to run. Let me see if I can do that externally. Okay, I cannot run it, but I will share the link in that video. So what you will see a process of T-Bone, my dog. Let me see if I can pull it up on YouTube. Please be patient for me a little bit. I make sure I will be able to pull that video off. I should have it handy. Because I think I should share it with you. I thought it's going to run automatically, but it doesn't. Okay, let's see that. No, it takes me too long. I'm going to share the link in the comments. You guys can watch it. So the next thing we're going to look for here is an example how everyday interactions with your dog from a professional perspective, even veterinarians and some not really good trainers use. Incomplete survival response is something that happens all the time, and we have to become aware of that, because if you work with your dog, I don't want you to end up creating those little mini traumas throughout the experience. This is the right picture, is a picture of a veterinarian live on YouTube presenting how to stabilize a dog for care. And so they have this classical restraint, they call it, right? Which caused the dog trauma, and people don't see that. So we see here around, they're holding down the dog's neck, they're holding the dog's paws, basically taking the dog the freedom of movement. And there is a scientific evidence. We know about that. Dogs can be stroked while on the examination table, but care should be taken not to unintentionally reinforce fearful responses in this way. Temporary restraint is known to be potentially stressful to the dog. So if you have a veterinarian, you want to sit down with them, talk to them. I have many clients over the years that call me from all over the world, from all the continents, telling me after the vet visit, suddenly the dog become aggressive to strangers. This is why. The dog doesn't know the veterinarians, doesn't know the personnel that particular day, and he has to be hard handled because those people would just want to get the dog into treatment, and they don't have forever time. So one piece of problem is the parents don't educate the dog to these stressful situations. They don't educate the dog what to do with the vet visit, and then those trauma happens. And then we see here, for example, it's a classical example, a very well-known online trainer with millions of views and hundreds thousands of subscribers teaching them exactly how to restrain a dog, not only with hands and have the handlers, like 3 people restraining the dog, plus the dog has a shock collar on, and that dog, all he wanted to do is eat his food that they presented. So they created, out of resource guarding, that a dog actually resource guard the food because he had a reason. They caused a severe PTSD response and destroyed the relationship between the dog and the handler. So, and what we usually don't pay attention to, and I was one of them, and that's why I share it openly. I made the mistake. I regret it. I apologize to everyone. The tools that I thought worked correctly were not correctly. So all those things, the tools can induce incomplete survival response without us really knowing it, are a body halti or a body walk harness or pull stop harness, whatever you want to call it. Even the martingale collar that is not really well attached, and the choke collar, and the strong or dominant dog collar, and the plastic prong collars, and the halti around the mouth, and the prong collar, and the other types of restraining collars, especially the shock collars, and sometimes the buckle collar. All of those can cause an incomplete survival response, and you guys need to know and be aware of. You need to warn those people. How to apply those are not tools to correct anything. They're just to hang a tag on. And because it's legally reinforced that you have to have your dog on a leash and you have to attach the leash somewhere, I recommend use a harness and have the collar really just to hang the tag on, or just, to have your expression of support of any community that you represent, and really look for not using those any way to restrain or halt your dog. The harness is a safer way to handle. However, the goal is on leash training, for example, is the dog to know his job description and doesn't rely on this collar. He should know what to do because you guys have a communication, because you have established a secure attachment relationship. So if you build secure attachment relationship and you're struggling with leash training, that will adjust itself because the dog wants to be with you. He wants to pay attention to what you have to say. He sees your interactions very important. Why would he let go? Yes, we have issues with some dogs who likely get sidetracked and will chase other animals. That is something you have to work on. How to educate your dog what to do and how to manage his dog, his stressors and his triggers. Now, when those events happening, we have few things that help us. First of all, is the animal is capable of shaking off that freeze response that caused by major life-threatening event. So basically what the dog would do, he would shake his stuck trauma out of his body, very simply by shaking it off. And remember how many times something happened and interactions, 2 dogs were roughhousing, and then suddenly one of the dog moves aside and shakes it off. What happened is the sympathetic system triggered by that interactions because the other dog was more predatory in that game, and he walked away and shook it off, sending 2 clear messages. A, I got rid of my trauma. B, that you created to me. and the other dog has to take that symbol. So if something happens and you're playing with that or watching other dogs and you see one of those dogs start shaking it off, that is your alarm system that the other guy went too far and his upper limit should be start being regulated. Because that on the very bottom of that behavior is where aggression will start if the other dog doesn't recognize that message because he doesn't have proper social skills. Now the other thing that we see here is trembling. Shaking or trembling, which comes from the limbic brain, that is part of the brain that holds emotions. All of a sudden we see that emotions can be released through trembling, sends a signal to the fight or flight system that can be turned off. So that trembling is nothing else than burning off the excess energy that is stored in the body that shaking it off wouldn't take care of. And I don't know how many of you do martial arts and how many times in a fighting ring you got this little trembling. It's not totally healthy response. So how do we heal that? And what does it entail? And I need to do a water break. Healthy food. And why healthy food? Because food can cause aggression. If the dog lacks on nutrients, he can show aggressive behavior. And if a dog can kill for food, he maybe can be very upset and very frustrated if his body needs something that he doesn't get. And frustration, as you best know, can cause aggression. One other cause of aggression is free will, lack of free will choices. So one part of feeling aggression is start giving the dog free will choices that he never had before because of all these restraints and forced interactions. And of course, as we talk about, is secure attachment. So it's important that we build and start a relationship with secure attachment and include healthy food and include the dog having free choices. And the most important part of all is actually having the dog express his emotions. How many times you have worked with a dog who has been trained on a shock collar or prong collars where all his emotions are being suppressed because every time he showed them, he was being corrected, and now he learned that avoiding those signals and expressing his emotions would be punished. And all of a sudden you have a silent killer. Because he cannot express his emotions, the next thing he's going to do is going to explode when the event happens because he has nowhere to ground this energy that is being compensated in his body. The other thing that we have to look for is freedom of movement and exercise. As I showed an example before, just going to the vet, reducing or restricting that movement by force can cause the dog trauma. And in order to heal that trauma, we need to give the dog freedom of movement, and also exercise and grounding will help grounding those excess energy that's stuck in the body. The other thing that we need also is a safe place. And how many of your clients have a dog in their home and they share the dog safe place with the couch? And then suddenly somebody comes for a visit and the dog doesn't have a safe place to go and doesn't have available the safe haven. And all of a sudden he wants to rest from his stress, keep himself away, but he cannot because he's basically trapped because everybody sits on his safe place. So if you hear the people says the dog should not be on the couch, kind of, sort of, I would agree, but only for the reason if the dog doesn't have an alternative safe place. So if a dog does not have an alternative safe place, you have to create one. Only then you can ask the dog to get off the couch, because the dog has that couch as a safe place, and if people come in, he has nowhere to go, therefore he wants to get rid of the people, and so you have aggressive behavior towards strangers, and it starts when the doorbell rings. Why? Because he knows exactly what's going to happen. He's going to lose his safe place. Now he's stressed. He doesn't know what to do. And one thing goes to the other. The other thing that we need to heal aggression is learn how the dog creates social bonds, interactions, socialization, and troubleshooting. And again, here what's happening, and I have seen this lately very often, now that everybody after the COVID puppies want to get socialized their dogs, they force the dogs into social bonds. They take the dog, dump him in the playground, and he has to figure out social cues that nobody else knows, and the dog ends up in trouble, shows aggression, and then we punish the aggression. I know you guys don't, but 99% of the clients that you have to deal with have punished that aggression, which is not aggression, it's basically a survival response. And so forcing the dog into socialization without building the foundation of it will definitely cause the dog problem in the long run. And of course, education, routine, and rituals are important to set here, because if the dog doesn't have the education what to expect in a situation, and he doesn't understand routines of that event, and he doesn't have a ritual set, how would he know how to meet people? How can he predict what's going to happen the next couple of seconds in the event? And so let's dismantle trauma for a little bit and see how can we look at that. So safety. We have to build secure attachment relationship for the dog to feel safe and nurtured. We have to build trust for the dog to trust to get help solving problems. And I may show you an exercise to do that. The dog needs to have control. Let the dog be in control of what his choices are, and let him be control what you will do. And for example, when you have a dog who struggles with separation anxiety or struggles with leash behavior, it happens because he feels he has no control. He has no control of his body. If he's on a leash, he has no control of you leaving the house. Now, what if for a moment the dog would have control? What if for a moment the dog would tell you, hey, I'm worried about you leaving, and you stop because your dog told you not to move? And then assure him that you're listening to his emotions and you are in control. And the best way to control you is to show specific behaviors. So if you want to control me and you don't want me to leave, why is that? Because I'm afraid that if you leave, I will starve and die. Well, we're going to prove him wrong. We're going to prove him that there is other reason that he can control you for not to leave, because you have to leave to get him something that he wants. And suddenly that control becomes self-control. Instead of controlling you, the dog will be able to control himself. Something has to be controlled. So if your dog struggles with you leaving, it's because he predicts if you go, you will be gone forever. And now we're going to teach him, for example, that if you leave, you will come back. So the dog is in control of you. He knows if he's compliant and is calm and waits for you on his spot, on a safe place, you will come faster. And by the end, he expects something to get from you upon return. So if your dog is fearful of you leaving, now he's hopefully for you returning. So not only we give the dog control, we also have the dog have a specific role to control his environment, to be a specific part in your family that has a job in the family, that he has to do specific things that you appreciate. And that role is what keeps you coming back. And that also in extension will create that attachment. Let the dog experience different types of attachment in form of rituals, friends, partners, playmates, secure attachment, all those experiences your dog has to go through. So let's look a little bit closer. Where is trauma stored? The traumatic experience that involves most of all the senses, sight, hearing, smell, physical pain, as well as emotions, verbal expression, and thoughts, are stored in multiple regions throughout the brain. However, the energy of the trauma is stored in the body's tissues, primary muscle and fascia tissues, until it can be released. So there are different layers of the body's energy field as well as the body. So not only we have a dog store the trauma in his brain, he also stores it in his body, but also in his outer energy field. So we have to see the dog as a multidimensional being that not only experiences his environment, but also gathers information from different sources, from his brain, from his body, and from his energy field. Now, how do we heal? We heal multidimensional trauma by starting by healing the blueprint of the dog's physically, mental, and emotional health. So everything information that we see in the body sitting together and all these molecules gather together in a piece of meat that we call dog. Something organizes it. So we have to see the energy, that energetic blueprint, that the higher dog that makes that dog being a universe that we call dog, that we have to deal with, that interacts with this environment in this unique way and gathers this information. So if something happens in that physical body, it has to bring that feedback back to his energy, because this is the energy that stores all that information and gathers. This is how, when we share, when we transmute, and we evolve, we gather information from this energy field. So if a dog has this traumatic experience, is being stored in these outer layers, and in order to remove those layers, we have to start healing and tracing those layers back to the original event. So it's kind of like a quantum entanglement with everything the dog has experienced, not only in the present, but also in the past, and not only the individual dog, but also his ancestors. So all these things are interconnected. So you're not dealing with the trauma just with a leash. Maybe the leash is just how the trauma popped up in reality. There are other traumas behind that come in as a package and explode right in front of you that you see as an aggression. So before you interact with that dog, you have to tap and be able to see the big picture. What is the situation? Where is this energy coming from? Is it coming from the dog? Is it coming from his partner? Is it coming from his handler? Is it coming from his parent? Is it coming from his genetics? So if you have a client, you have to sit down and do this multi-dimensional scanning and understand how it works. I have a modality that I can help you learn how to do that, how to look into these energy fields that are literally not accessible in 3D. You have to meditate into it. You have to go in a different frequency and be able to touch and feel and emotionally connect in a quantum level with those energies and trace them back to their origin. And you can change the past through healing those energetic blockages, and those affect the future. And I can tell you a couple of examples in a couple of minutes. Genetic trauma, generational trauma, sorry. For the last 600 years, dogfighting flourished, right? We see all these pit bulls and legislations because people just see fun seeing dogs fighting with each other. But dogs are very peaceful creatures. So what happened to them happened by force. The starvation, the agitation, and they put together in a fighting ring. That experience that happened in that dog, that environmental imprint is being projected into this energy field, in these outer layers of this energy field, and is going down the generations and the generations and generations, is being carried on as a weight. So some dogs, I call them healers versus teachers or companions, that do gather that energetic trauma from their generational trauma and clear it in the present moment. Those are very special dogs, and you will recognize them. These are dogs who are very intense. You can see their energy. They're so aware of what's happening in their surroundings, even in a negative aspect. And what we need to do is we need to help them by tapping into that energy field and release them for that energy that's being carried on over generations, up to 17 generations. Science has proven that this can happen. So a classic example of generational trauma is the stress that happens in breeding facilities. And how many of you guys have worked with dogs who come from those meat factories or birth factories, that all they do is create that generational trauma, and you're dealing with a dog who has anxiety and fears, eats his poop, confuses with his environment. He has no clue what's happening in his environment. He's basically not really present because his body is so full of trauma that he actually cannot experience the present moment because he's totally isolated from it. And how many of you have taken a dog out for a walk and he's just a chaos? He doesn't even know where he is. He cannot even smell anything because his brain is shut off. All he does is walking like a robot in a path of stress and fear. How do you get these dogs out? The only way to get out is to heal that trauma energetically using alternative energy healing modalities. We're going to talk about that at the end, to clear this energy field. So you're not only conditioning a dog. This is kind of a very limited approach. Classical conditioning will not get you to release that trauma. There's no way. All it does, it packages it and it suppresses it, while you having the secure feeling of, now I condition my dog to accept the other dog, but the trauma is stuck there. It's just harder and deeper in the dog's body. And what it does, it will affect the other generation unless it's spayed and neutered, which is not going to happen. However, you do not want to deal with that. Now, healing trauma aggression, first of all, you have to start with evaluating the secure attachment. You're understanding the functional behaviors, why the dog does something in relationship to his secure attachment, and why does he do something in relationship to other attachments in the environment. And I would like you to stay patient with yourself and your dog as you learn about each other. So don't rush that relationship. You don't have to be a successful trainer by dealing with it in the first session and be done with it, unless you're really so good who can release trauma just with your presence. I know many of you have this ability because you're healers in your essence, and just your presence transmute their trauma and you process it. This is where you are an empath, and this is also where you sponge these energies, and you need to know how to release those energies. So I have a very good workshop coming up soon, and you're welcome to subscribe to my website and get the notifications, how to help yourself in those situations where you're sponging energy from dogs, where you're getting emotional when dealing with dogs, where you losing your patience and you're losing your frustration or getting frustrated. If you tap into this energy and you get overwhelmed with this dog reaction because you can feel his frustrations and you're sponging it and you're expressing it just with your dog, while you're supposed to hold space for it instead of getting triggered. And I know many of you have been through traumatic experience yourself, and what happens is you empathize with the dog and you recognize his trauma because it resonates with your frequency, and you just want it to stop from happening, and you mentally do things you shouldn't do. So of course you don't punish the dog, and of course the dog should be in control of the consequences and not of the use of aversive tools, even if that's a shaky can. And I know many people kind of are in the gray level here. I'm not judging you. I've been there before you. But I thought it's totally okay because everybody does it and everybody says it's okay, so I can use it. But I didn't listen to my guts. And once I recognized how wrong I was, I always had the chance to apologize and walk away from it. It's not a big deal. Let your dog express his emotions and let your dog feel your emotions, because that instant interactions between your dog and you becomes in synchronicity. And that synchronicity is what basically is an important part of healing trauma, because only if you're synchronized, you can help the dog stay in a positive thoughts, because he starts feeling you and you start feeling your dog. Healing attachment trauma is learning to understand your dog's unique cues. Eating, sleeping, calmness are opportunities for building secure attachment. Go to rest with your dog. Yes, you can take your dog on the bed. Yes, people should take the dog on their bed, on their couch. There's nothing wrong with it. Dogs cuddle with other dogs all the time. What's wrong with it? We should kind of pull away of this old belief system that there is the human and there is the subservient. No, we both are sentient beings. We both are emotional intelligence. We both have emotions, and we need to interact with each other just like we would interact with a 3-year-old. Why not? So the next thing we're going to look for is, yes, you can talk and laugh and play with your dog just like you would play with a child. These words are charged with emotions as a carrier. And you guys who work in the radio industry or are in electronics, you will see that you have a carrier wave, and that carrier wave carries the word and the video. So your voice is the carrier wave, and your emotions are carried with it. So, and you don't need to be pretending who you are. Just be authentic. I think it's more responsible to be authentic and responsive than try to pretend somebody you're not just because you're with a client. And you don't need to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. And the one who's perfect is a problem because obviously he hasn't seen that he makes mistakes. So I wish we are imperfect because we learn from it. If we were perfect, we should be already not here anymore because we're done with it, right? So dog attaches with more than one caregiver, but secure only with one. So if people feel personally offended, if they adopted a dog and he bonds with their partners, and then there is a divorce and the dog has to go with a partner, we have to recognize it's the dog's choice with whom he securely attached, and we shouldn't get frustrated about it. How to express secure attachment? Very easily. Body language. Show your dog how you feel. Be relaxed. Use your eyes. Make eye contact. Show affection. Don't buy into these gimmicks like ignore the dog. The dog should be aware that you pay attention to the dog. Don't be rude. Don't turn your back on the dog. However, you should show the dog that you open that event that's happening in front of you and give the dog an option. So you're not facing the dog, you give it 10 degrees aversion. You look at the butt and give the dog an option to walk away from your side. Also, facial expressions are very important. And so you think the only markers are the clickers and the word yes or good. Well, your facial expression is an important marker as well. It shows that marker has a value. How is your marker? What's the, let's call it the flavor of your marker? Is it happy marker? Is it unhappy marker? What's your smile, your soft eyes, your facial expression? And dogs do pay attention. So if you really think that dogs are like wolves, well, here's the funny part. Wolves don't look at people's facial expressions. Dogs do. And yes, you can use touch. Gentle, reassuring, circling. Don't rub your dog's ears. Don't poke him. Don't nudge him, right? And yes, your vocal tone is important. Mother's tone kind of thing. And you don't need to be kind of coochie thing, right? Like, but yeah, your soft tone shouldn't change if you work with your dog. From, hey, good job, sit. Why would you change? It's just a fun game playing with each other. So keep that tone accordingly. Don't change tones if the event hasn't changed. So, challenges to creating secure attachment relationship. Well, here are a few things that you will struggle with. A, if you have a dog with compromised nervous system. Dogs who come from puppy mills and early rejection. Dogs who have health problems at birth or at very early age. Dogs who spend very long time in shelter care. We call them as long-term stays, right? Or dogs who are separated under 6 weeks, so they lack of those attachment experiences, or have changed several series of caretakers. Those dogs who changes adoption and from foster going to another foster and go back to the shelter and back to a foster, or dogs who experience trauma. So these are your challenges. So in your questionnaire, you have to ask those questions. Has the dog medical conditions? How early did you get the dog from? Where did you get the dog from? If the person doesn't know where the dog has come from, you have to suspect. And then you have to look closer and start reverse engineering based on those behaviors. If you guys, I know some of you are joining my mentoring program, but some of you don't. I have in my mentoring program a document that calls reverse engineering post-traumatic stress disorder, where you can find and trace back the origin of that trauma based on the dog's behavior. When did it happen? So you know what you have to deal with. So healing touch to build secure attachment relationships. Yes, ears. But be careful. Sometimes dogs have ear infections, underlying ear infections. So we want to make sure that we understand that a dog is healthy. So in your questionnaire, make sure the dog has a clear bill of health and is checked out. Of course, you can see it soon enough if you come and the dog is barking, and every time he barks, he shakes his ears. The first thing you suspect is an ear infection. And pause. Yes, pause. Building secure attachment relationship. Make contact with the dog. Pause. The dog's body posture, pawing at the person, is an indication. I want to interact with you. I want more of you. what's wrong with it. Yes, if the nails are not clipped, that would be a problem. But if your one wants to shake paws, offer him. Tell him, I want that too. And all of a sudden you eliminate if your dog free will offers you behaviors because you give him that option. All of a sudden that relationship, that interaction with your dog starts releasing trauma. It becomes kind of like a little stream, and you can regulate it as it happens. Then the dog's neck. Massaging the dog's neck is very important. However, some dogs are very sensitive around the neck because of a previous trauma. So you want to be very close and give your dog room for a free will approach. Check in with your dog. Offer your hand. If he comes on his own and applies pressure to your hand, then you can pet him. Slowly, slowly, you can work your way up around the neck. Many times dogs who have collars on have vagus nerves and inflammations in their neck. You want to make sure that there are herbals available, and talk with a holistic veterinarian. He can give you instructions to implement those into your training program and help your dog heal. We'll look at that a little bit further. So things that we can use to heal the dog trauma. Canine prolonged exposure therapy. Most of you know that. Cognitive processing therapy. We know that too. Stress inoculated training. Crystal therapy. Energy healing. Food medicine. Don't underestimate food medicine. So pharmacognosy, some of you already know that, using dogs to choose their own supplements by offering them that opportunity. Supplements in general, healthy supplements. I know it's an unregulated industry, but supplements can be a big impact because usually dogs who are in dog food, very poor, they struggle to get the supplements they need, and so they're scavenging in the garbage bins and go to other stuff. Essential oils, also great thing to do, and crystal therapy, of course. And essential oils, very careful because there are many essential oils that are synthetic. We're not talking about synthetics. All we talk about organic and holistic approach in those supplements and essential oils. You want to make sure that those essential oils are diluted and not getting directly in contact with the animals. Ask or consult or cooperate with a professional who does essential oils to help you out and maybe give you a recipe for that. So get educated in behavior healing. Holistic behavior healing is an umbrella term for types of therapy and training modalities that treat behavior disorders. This approach seeks to identify the function of behavior and helps change potentially aggressive and unhealthy behaviors. It functions on the idea that behaviors are either inherited, affected by the environmental factors, or trauma, and that behaviors can be healed based on the latest scientific knowledge of canine behavior and applications of holistic veterinary therapies and intuitive healing modalities. I wish I could read your questions. I hope you guys have questions. I know I really pushed it. I wanted to keep it as short as possible. I could talk another 3 hours on this one. Trust me, I had 56 slides. I had to reduce them a lot. So how I do my online work is I start with the online behavior assessment, and through a video conference call from the comfort of the person's home, I can go in without causing the dog any additional stress and pull my questionnaire and go through all these questions. We have so much time without putting the dog into stress to start asking the people all these little questions. Let the people express themselves. What did you see? When did it happen? Who was present? What happened in the environment? What happened in the past? Why did you go to the vet? What did the vet say? What medication did he prescribe? What food are you on? What is this choice of your food? What do you like on this food? And start working with your client, creating a secure attachment relationship with your client, right? And if your client feels comfortable sharing all this information with you, then you can empower your client to work with you, applying those skills with his dog. And I also do individual behavior consultations in person, of course, force-free and stress-free. But the most important part is offering secure attachment and behavior healing programs. And I think you should do that too. And if you guys are interested, I do have a mentoring program, especially for professionals who have already the education but just want to know how to apply those things and how to implement them in your daily practice. So otherwise, I also have remote healing sessions. I use a modality called synergistic healing, but also outsource reconnective healing. My wife is a reconnective healing practitioner, so I basically hire her if I have any type of aggression in the dog to start with. The first thing I do is I do the functional behavior assessment in the beginning, or the behavior assessment in the beginning, and then followed by reconnective healing. And already we see improvement. Not only that, I understand what the dog is going through, and then I can compare after the healing session which parts have changed. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of situations for you guys who have a little bit more time. Very important also, implement those skills of secure attachment building in shelters and rescue training programs, because those people who deal with those dogs in these shelters and in foster homes, they need to understand how to teach the dog to build those attachment relationships and how to help them bond with the partner and forget what happened in the past. So I hope you guys can ask questions. So here's what we're going to do. You go in the comments in the live show, and I hope for some reason I have access. And please tell me, how do you feel so far about this workshop? What did you like? What are your questions? And I try to find out. Let's see how I can do that. So here I am. And see if I can go to Facebook. Oh, finally I found the comments. Jesus, I should look from the very beginning. Okay, hi Kelsey from Rhode Island. Hi Ampton from Alberta. Hi Kathy from China Township, Michigan. Kelsey, thank you, you can hear me. Perfect. Hi from Italy, buongiorno. Okay, you guys can check it out in the recording. Hi from Alberta, thank you. I'm so excited, guys, for New Zealand. You guys are everywhere. Ah, man, I should have written that. Yeah, sorry for that. Hello to Warsaw, Poland. I'm at work in Australia. Of course, you're going to watch it in replay. Alexa, it's really late here. Sure, I'm sorry for that. I tried to figure time that fits most of you guys, and I thought 4 o'clock basically globally is the better one. Yes, I can make your slides available. You're welcome to message me. I will keep you the recording. Yes, from Spain. Perfect. Good. So for you guys, I'm gonna give you my email. You can let me put that screen up again so you guys can see. Oh, that's the wrong slide. Where am I? I should be here somewhere. Yep. Let's get rid of the slide here. Sorry for you guys. Here you go. So here's my website. If you guys want to, and you can go to my website and subscribe. I will check in now with my questions. I'm open to answer your question. Squeeze me. Let's see if I can pull it up a little bit more. There we go. Can I pull this question here? Good. So I'm open to questions. Hi, Gemma from UK. Awesome. So how did you like this approach? I'm open to questions. I need to get some water. I had a couple of sessions this morning. I don't know where I'm kind of like talking out of my body here. And my apologies, we have almost 4 minutes delay. So I will hang in a little bit to answer all your questions. So let me tell you a couple of stories, and I see if I can pull up some videos to show you, because I think they're interesting. I'll get there. Hold on a second. I want to show you the video with T-Bone that I showed you before. And I'll tell you how I approached the whole thing. We're going to go through all these individual parts. Okay. Hold on a second. I'm getting there. Good. I'm going to talk to you about my first case here. That will be T-Bone. Let me pull it up for you. Let's share the screen. Here we are. Share screen. I hope I should. You know what? I think I screwed up. Let me fix that. So let's try again. Share screen. I have to click on this video audio link to be visible. Here we go.
What's up, T-Bone? You have a problem with your bone? You want me to hide it for you?
So that's T-Bone. He's a 2-time kill list candidate in US nation's biggest non-kill shelter, managed and supervised by the biggest non-kill rescue. So T-Bone got himself into trouble because he was severely abused as a puppy. I know the history of it. I heard from it later, by the way. And he was severely abused by his original owner as a puppy. He was kicked, he was hurt, he was punished to the point of police intervention. And the neighbor offered himself to take the dog in, and instead of the dog going to the pound. He's a Chinook dog as a breed. And his behavior was, no matter what you did, if he felt guilty, he would attack you and bite you for that. And as soon as he has some food in his hand, he would just, if you food in your or treat in your hand, he would just bite your hand off. So that is basically 6 months into training, coming to my place. I worked with him individually, and it seems very simple what happens here, but it's kind of complex, and I'll walk you through the process. So first of all, I had to help him overcome and show me his emotions and clearly give him room and place to move. So in his mouth, there is a bone, his favorite bone.
Bone? You want me to hide it for you? How about you drop it and I can take care of it?
So what happens, the dog avoids. And I basically created that video as a reference for the work that I have done so far, and how far he got. So what happens behind that gate, it's a safe place. So I closed that gate to give him no other options and kind of observe what he has learned so far. So he has a second safe place that I created for him, and I offer something in exchange. So I offer him an option. Option A, keep your bone. Option B, have something that I have that you want. And what he does, he goes to his second safe place and drops the bone in the second safe place that I protect. Everything that's on there, either I keep it or nobody else touches it. So I created that safe place for him. Now, he drops it off and turns back to me instead of attacking me as he would do in the past. What happened so far with that dog? I created secure attachment relationship to start with. We had a very hard beginning. He attacked me multiple times just for being present. But I was persistent, meaning is I didn't give in to his accusations of me being abusive and he was expecting me to punish him. I basically took 2 bites and I didn't respond to him. He walked into his crate. I forgive him. We're good. Shake pause, and the game was over. I recognized that his first response is a survival response, and he had no clue what he did at that point. He actually didn't remember what happened. So if in any way I would show him anger or frustration after the event was over, I would create a new event that has nothing to do with what he had just passed. So after that, his behavior changed. After that incident, he didn't see me as a threat because I didn't respond to his trigger. I understood his trigger, so I gave him room to express himself. Then the next thing I did with him, I did excessive work with him. I was teaching him individual cues that we work through by using force-free methods. I have him do things and I start naming them. So I have him associate his emotions with my cue words, and this is how it looks like.
Great.
So I offered him the treat, he took the treat, and I target the bone.
And sit.
I asked him to sit. Now, sit means calm down, go to that space of calmness. He chose not to,
Wait.
and he went back to his bone. My next intervention was call him to wait. Do not approach. Wait for further instructions. Now he waits for further instructions.
Sit. No.
I ask him to sit, and he wants to go after it. So what happens at that point? I'm already synchronized with his behavior. I can feel how he feels as it happens. And so he may seem not to do things. Of you who catch it earlier can see his intentions to switch from one event to another. And so no, that is followed. Do not proceed would be no in that case. And what happens? No, he doesn't proceed. He backs away from it.
I'll take care of it. Okay.
Now, he sits on his own, which gives me the information that he's much calmer than before. I asked him to sit before. I told him that's my intention, and I didn't pressure him on that. I waited for him to do that so I can reward it.
Yeah. Slow. Continue.
Now, you can see how stressed he is at that point, that he has to divide his brain between what he really, really needs and what I have to offer. But that is his ability to control. Remember I told you he needs to control? So I have him control things. He can control the bone if he wants. I wouldn't punish him, but I told him not to because I appreciate him not to do that. Because we have established a very secure attachment relationship, he knows that it affects me personally if he continues with asking him not to. And the next thing he's going to do, you're going to see that he's already internally processing. His body tries to take over, but his brain controls it back. So that dog is in control right now.
Okay. How about you go to your bed? No. I need that bone. Go to your bed. Go. On your bed and sit. All the way. And sit. Good job. Shake.
Now, if you see here very slightly, you see what I was talking about, the shaking.
Little bit.
Okay, let me show that again because it's visible. I hope the transmission is better.
Little bit.
So little, you can see his legs are shaking.
And sit. Good job. Shake.
There. So his sympathetic nervous system went through a mini trauma release through that process. So that is an event that happened one. I was happy to set it up. as a recording because I just wanted to test myself and what the methods work so far. And this is not the first dog I worked with, but he was my personal dog at that point, so I was able to control the whole process. Now, this little fella, he's 16 back then. He was severely aggressive towards any other dogs. He got severely attacked by his best friend, a pit bull friend, that he was by accident in the house where this dog had a new arrived baby, and he was very protective of it, and he had no clue. So what he did by accident, he went there to check the baby, and the other dog just attacked him, almost cut him in half, and he was very hard. And so T-Bone was his first experience meeting a dog after that particular bite incident. I didn't know my wife back then. She was she hired a couple of other trainers who basically wanted to use shock collars on that dog. Let me check your question so far. Good. Let's answer some questions. Kathy, I love your presentations. Is there a best way to encourage a secure attachment with an unsure dog? Yes. So an unsure dog usually has hard time connecting. So you basically go to the primary event, try to recreate how the dog bonds with you. So you have to slowly have the dog go through an experience to start trusting you and trusting the environment. So first of all, you have to create a secure attachment environment that your dog can be in, and you have to be present. And if that means you have to lay on the floor for an hour until your dog comes closer and closer and start presenting and become curious. So you use the dog's natural curiosity to start connecting with you and start processing you. So you need a calm dog to be able to do that. So the first thing you want to do is reduce the stressors. It doesn't have to happen the first time. It can happen over time or a period of time. There is no time limitation into that. There is no time restrictions. And don't be pushed by your client to do quickly because he's watching some TV series and they do it in one series, right? Be patient. There's no time regulation on it. It's a sequence of events. Only if the dog is calm, then he can process his environment. Only if he can process his environment, he can understand who you are and what your intentions are. Some dogs have hard time connecting emotionally, so you have to be very honest with your emotions and see your emotions as expressions of your inner being. I am afraid right now. My expression right now, I'm afraid of being judged by you, right? In reality, I'm afraid internally because of my past trauma of being judged by colleagues. I'm expressing it right now. I feel better. Internally, I'm processing it. Okay? And I appreciate your feedbacks. So that is a healing process for me. So the dog who gets interaction with you, he's afraid of being judged of how he interacts with you and how you will respond to that. So your important information is to freely give your information, let the dog process it. Gemma, is it possible to build secure attachment relationship where there's been a rocky and a difficult relationship for a long time? Yes, but in that case, if that is your relationship with your dog and you guys have been through a turmoil through the relationship, it would be a hard way to do it because there is a predisposition. As suspicious you are on your dog, as suspicious is your dog to you. So what I would suggest is change the environment. So change the scenario and create a new scenario, a new season, episode 1, season 1, episode 1, season 2, episode 1, and start from there. Take your dog out for a walk. Change the color that is energetically charged. Change the leash. Change your hand. Use the other hand. Wear a hand glove. Change as many things as you can so the dog cannot associate the past with the present moment. So, good. Any other questions meanwhile? Good. Okay, let's proceed with T-Bone. Where am I? Here on YouTube. Good. So the next thing you're going to see because he loves offering his hand. This offering hand is our peace ritual. I appreciate you doing what you do. We are good, no offense.
It's okay, thank you.
So, and I express myself with gratitude. It's very important for you guys to share your gratitude with your dog. It's an emotional information that is heart-centered, and the dog perceives that as information. As a predator, he has a distinction between predator and prey, and he has a distinction between family and non-family, and he has a distinction with your intentions. So dogs read intentions that are processed through your vibration in and how you interact with this environment. An aggressive person and passive aggressive person will most likely trigger a guardian breed than a person who is more more centered.
Taking care of the bone.
So the next thing I do is I pick it up, and you see what the dog does.
I put it in the freezer and nobody will take care of it.
You see that look? You see the body stance? Now he's focusing on that treat. He's processing internally how to work it out. And I'm not pushing him.
Only me. Okay? Promise. Because I know who wants that bone.
Yeah, in that case, I didn't plan that part. That happened by the accident because I closed the refrigerator before that, and these guys were upstairs. So I thought I'm alone with my dog. I can do the session here with him, a training session. But these guys came over here, and yeah, they're his besties. However, there was a little bit of competition. Eventually, that video would look differently if those guys would not be there.
Right? And they don't get it, only you. Good.
So that was one thing here. Let me get back to that video and stop it. Oh, let me find something else for you guys. Let me see how I get out of here. Yep. One other part was this fella here. I think I can share with you. So for you guys who have dogs in your room, it's gonna be loud and barking. If you want, it's a 39-minute video. It's a full in-house person session. I can walk you with that through it. What happened with that dog? It's a Dobby, and he's in a family, and they had an issue with the relationship. Okay. Let me show you how I did it. If you want to, okay. Give me a thumbs up or give me a heads up if you guys want to watch that. Again, it's a 39-minute video. If you want to, we can talk through that a little bit. I will keep it short. I'm going to skip a couple of things, telling you kind of as a timeline how it looks like. But just a heads up, there will be loud barking. The dog has a basically very intense response. Is it that? Yep, it is that video. So the reason why I'm there is because the person got injured. This is owner. And the dog has been through a training before that. Unfortunately, there was aversive methods used. And as soon as the dog saw the scratches, he basically attacked the owner for that. And the dog had to be remained in his crate for his both safety. And so the goal was to get the dog out of a crate safely manners and show them a couple of exercises which you can copy as we do that video here. Okay,
Let's do this.
so this is the situation here. So the dog attacked the owner and the female owner. So that setting here is that crate. When the door opens, it has access to that door. So the person is behind that gate. As the gate opens on the backside, it has two entrances. The door is open first, then the gate open. The dog has free access to outdoors, and then the dog will come back in. So these people physically have no contact with the dog for a couple of months now, and the dog basically shuts down in his crate. So what I do now is basically start creating secure attachment relationship. And I know it sounds weird. All I do, I prove to him that I offer good intentions. Let me slow it down a little bit here. It sounds. So all I do, if you watch me, I'm not watching the dog's face. I'm watching on the front, in front of his legs. I'm facing away from him, not towards him. So I'm offering that choice to turn away from me. And I know he's crated, but that's the only option I have available right now. I have high value treats. Now, two things that happen in here. He has water on one side and he has food on the other side. And you're going to see later on that he's actually self-rewarding himself. And because I didn't want him to reward himself, I offered him an alternative reward that is higher value of what he has in his bowl to distract him for that. Now, as I was there, 2 minutes into the session, the dog offers his first laying down without me telling him. Would that change the way I did it next time? Maybe yes. At that point, this is how I felt doing it correctly. I wanted him to see that I'm not the one he believes I am. So what happened with the dog? Usually there was frustration involved, and every time the dog barked, he was hit against the crate with the crutches, or he was punished to do that. And all I wanted to prove the dog that I will not do that. So we had kind of like a moment where we were blaming each other, and he has his negative thinking patterns, and he was thinking down the road that I will do it, and he was already ready for it. And so I had to wait that moment for him to pass that part. And since I would not respond to his expectations, then the body will ask the brain to find another way to figure things out. Okay, now 2.5 minutes into the session, because of my approach to not buy into the drama, to hold space for the dog and let him express himself without any other information than, hey, all I'm here for is to give you something that I have that I think you should get. That's all I do right now. So, and I use food exactly for that purpose. Yes, high value food. And some of you may say, well, you're rewarding, his barking. At that point, I'm not rewarding his barking because he's not processing anything anyway. All he does, he has a survival response and his body does things for him. So he's not really processing anything. But what I show him is I will not change. So the reason why I'm not changing is because something is different. And I would like you, body, to remember that I am different. So I had just held to hold space from there. You see, I have minimal movements to not trigger a sympathetic system. And I was basically waiting for his body to give up that approach because it doesn't change anything on the situation he's in, and trigger the brain to think through the process. I basically try activate the brain to think through it. Okay, 2 minutes and 43 seconds, the dog already changed his position into more comfortable place. And yes, I'm wearing a mask because we have mandatory mask. But at some point, I feel like I should take down the mask. I felt like I should do it for some point. Now what I wait is for the dog to take my reward. So the situation with the dog is that people couldn't even take his collar off. So he was just with that leash in the kennel because at the beginning it happened. Now watch this. He drinks water, and then he's gonna treat himself. There you go. So seeing that, I knew that basically I have I have competition in there. Good. So now is how the brain took over. So let's watch that again so you can see that switching point that I was waiting for. 3, 2, 1. It happens in a bit, like now. There. Boop. So that moment, he basically expressed himself that, yeah, I'm upset, I'm upset, I'm upset, I'm upset, I'm upset. And then suddenly his brain like, wait, there's something different here. And that brain took over. That's where the moment comes in. So we are 4 minutes into the session and I say, like, I have to take my mask off. And he took the treat. I would say the mask was not the problem. Okay? It was just an additional factor that I thought I should change just in case. And now
my employees, when they see masks, used to go crazy on them, and then they would take it off, and he was more okay. Not this crazy, but he was a lot more okay with the mask off.
Good. So in 4 minutes, I created trust in our relationship. So now my session starts, basically.
But lately, he's gotten used to it. But I do think this might be the first time he's seen a mask in the house, maybe. Because yours is just like briefly on, and he's in and out. So I don't know. Or it could just be coincidental.
Okay. Now what I attempt is to open the door. And as you heard before, I asked them, is it okay to open the door? I need the people's consent to let the monster out if they're scared. So my goal was to prove him that he can go out in the crate. And so we have kind of a thing going on right now. And I will do things for you if you do things for me. So now all of a sudden we have a two-way communication. I do things for you and you do things for me. Now, in 5 minutes, I was pretty sure I know where it is going, so I could see the potential and the trajectory of that behavior. So I thought I should let the dog out.
He's not throwing food at the counter like he does sometimes.
Now what I do is I hold the treat away from me. Now, some of you know the BAT training. I apply something very similar here with a different meaning, though. I want the dog to make a choice between me or the treat, and if he chooses me, he gets a treat for that.
We had to get the clamps because we just had the water on the clamp. We just put the food bowl on the bottom and you just knock it over food, just scatter it on the kitchen, try to bury it under the blanket.
So the moment he checks in with me, he gets the treat.
So what I'm going to try to do is have the dog check in with me if he wants more.
Now I give the dog control. And this is where I said before, giving the dog control. The dog wants the treat that I have, which is good. I have a food motivation, and the other motivation is to get out of the crate. So I have two motivations on my side, and now I'll let the dog make the choice. If you want me to do more, then check in with me, and this is how you control my hand. The more you check in with me, the more food I get, and at some point, the more trust I have, the more you can trust me, and then I can open the gate. But you can see also the dog, you see on his body language how curved he is. So he's really insecure, he's very tense. Okay, in his body, his ears, his head is down, his legs are lifting. He's not really, really solid in there. Here you go. Now the dog voluntarily sits down, meaning is I'm patient. It's much better situation than him as he was before. So you see how quickly things changing. And you haven't seen, I haven't done a lot of movements other than with my hand. I don't want to trigger his sympathetic nervous system. So I try to keep things low profile. And that way, if I don't trigger him, he can feel it. So he feels more secure to express himself because it doesn't have consequences, or not bad consequences. So again, what I did now is waiting for him to make eye contact and then give him a treat.
This video is just going to kill her crying on it. Yeah.
Good. Now let him check in longer.
Now what I did, I stretched the time that he looks at me. So now I have him looking longer for me for the treat. But you can see how he softens up, right? And we are 5 minutes in the session. So 5 minutes in the session, from that into this. And it's the first time I met this dog.
This video is just going to kill her crying on it. More control with this because he knows how to get the treat from me, kind of thing.
Sorry, I ignored the client. He was talking too much.
So now wait for a little bit more, calmer body language.
Now what I wait the dog is to loosen up a little bit. So I didn't tell the dog to lay down, but lay down is a state of mind. Being calm, being safe, feeling comfortable.
Are you making eye contact with him right now? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't make eye contact yet. He's kind of sad-eyed.
I used to take little hand cubes like for salad. I put it right here.
Good. And now I already start giving him supple rules.
He's been out before.
Okay.
So the question, if I can let the dog out, he said he's been out before. Likely is kind of like, how worse can he get? Kind of, sort of. Now, I have to admit, I kind of got surprised. My reflex kicked in, so I tried to protect myself and close the door. My intention was not to hurt the dog, of course. It just was a reflex to kind of not let him out so fast.
And he's got the lead on, so I suppose it's not so bad.
Ready?
Good.
Good. Hold on.
So the reason why I dared open the door, he was really soft taking his treats out of my hands. I felt really connected. He was very honest about his emotions. So emotionally, I start connecting with him and I start receiving information. All I want is out. See who I really am. And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see what you got. Worst case scenario, you're going to bite me. That was a risk.
You want more of that?
But I feel very confident because he was responding so quickly to what we did so far. Now what you're doing now is basically giving him options to approach me on his own free will. Yes, I lured him into that. However, we have established a relationship before that, so he knows what I will do, and I'm consistent with what I do. If I offer him a treat, he will get it. All he has to do is kind of like give me some other alternatives.
Back stance legs.
Spring-loaded kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, here is what I wanted to share with you, is always check how the dog's body feels like. Now, what the trauma is right now is stuck in his back system, here in the back system. And his also trauma is stuck here in the front legs. So you see he's lifting his leg and he cannot move his rear legs. So dogs are rear driven, like back-ridden rear drive cars, responsible for proportion and responsible for letting go. The front side is for steering and daring new situations. So that dog has a trauma in approaching new situations and letting go of the past. So now I don't want to reward that. So I'm directing the body to release trauma by changing his body posture into a better position.
Insecure. That's a safe place. He goes into not safe place.
Just leave his feet where he.
And you see how automatically his body tries to go to a previous safe place that he was before. That's why he walks away from me. But that's not I'm giving up there.
Feels comfortable.
Good.
I did a move back as well.
So now we're working when it's a little bit more square.
So
Good.
now what I do is I'm not rewarding him being in that fear space. I'm rewarding him for offering me alternative behaviors, which means feel comfortable to do whatever you like to do. Whatever I feel more comfortable, I will reward. Now, his choice to sit down, I rewarded because he made the choice to back away and stay put instead of walking away. So instead of going into fight or flight, he chose to sit and not freeze.
Is yours his front leg?
He's like specialized with the dog.
Good. Now you see how quickly that, system changed and how straight he's on his back. However, he has good intentions. You see he has his one leg forward, the other one is a little further back. So he has intentions to come closer, and I'll keep that going.
Now I do the same thing I did already prime in the crate. We're checking with me.
Did you see the shaking off? So 8 minutes and 28 seconds after the trauma started, I was able to help him shake it off. So what I did basically, if you observed correctly, I was doing movements back and forth, having him changing his body positions in different locations, give him freedom of movement and freedom of choice, and all of a sudden, he was able to release his stress, his trauma.
Now I do the same thing I did already prime in the crate. We're checking
That.
with me gets you more of that. Good.
And now, I repeat the same thing I did for my crate. Check in with me, you get more. Now we go to the next level. Now you have freedom of movement, and now I'm asking you, do you want more of that? And maybe you want to offer me something in exchange. Now, dogs who build secure attachment relationships will repeat that type of way of relate to each other based on their original experience. So the first experience, the first imprinting, as Conrad Lawrence expresses, the first imprinting, the first event, the way it happened, the same way it's going to happen again, because that's the only solid memory the dog has. And I need to trigger that. That's why I start with food. That's why I start with safe space. That's why I start with giving the dog options.
Good. Yes. Here's a good bite control. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I put little cubes of ham in my mouth, and I'll put it right to him, and he'll just very gently remove it from my mouth. He can control it when he wants, for sure.
Good. Good job.
Now what I do is I hold my treat and let him make a choice if he wants to touch me or not. That gives me a better indication if he wants to interact physically with me or not. It's not really about the treats right now. It's because he chose to touch me. But I'm not touching him. He just touched me himself.
Good. Good job.
So energetically speaking, he enters my energetic space. So the dog's energetic space and people's energetic space vary the way it's expressed itself. But our energetic space is like a donut going upwards because our heart system is vertical. The dog's heart system is horizontal. So that is wider than our human. So if we move into the dog's energetic space, it happens earlier as the dog enters our space. So if we approach a dog closer than 6 feet, we are already invading the dog's personal space. That's why do not approach a dog in that aspect. The dog has to approach you because it's his choice to enter your safe space and your energetic configuration instead of you entering it. So you don't become a predator, but your dog makes the choice to enter your space. So that's a key factor here. Now, you see what I do? I don't move. The reason why I do that, because I want to see what he will do if I do something unexpected. And what do you think will be his response? His response, he has proven himself before that. If something happens that he doesn't expect, he's going to bark about it. So that's what I'm waiting for right now. So the first thing he did, he looked at the side and he licked his lips, telling me, I'm processing. I don't understand what's going on. I don't like the situation right now. Now he's stuck. Did you see that? How he got stuck? Let me show you that again so you can see that too. Try to predict what's going to happen next. So he backs away. He sits, his ears up, he lip licking. He tries to understand what's going on. He will do it again. Now. And now he gets stuck. And the first thing that you learn from our conversation here is that if you get stuck, it's totally okay to walk away. So, goal achieved. Instead of biting, you have another option, walk away from it.
Good. Ready?
And I reward that.
So what he did now, I challenged him. I didn't give him what he expected to do, and then once that didn't work out, he was like, oh, we had an issue. So he's rather a dog who tries to avoid things rather than go into things, which is good.
So if you want to do evaluation, that's the best way to do is to check the dog what his primary brain configuration is. Is he going as a default to attack? Is it default to back away? Or is it default to get stuck? So remember, 5 F's. Freeze, fight, flight. And what I taught him today is flirt and favor. Flirting is flirt with the situation, establish a relationship, see how it works out so far. Instead of making one of those choices your body tells you to do, how about you consciously do different things? Check in, flirt with the situation, and then if things don't work the way you want, how about you ask a question like, can I have this? All you have to do is check in with me so I can answer you the question.
In that case, he could also go forward.
When he gets scared,
He
I'm
back
sure.
off. Right?
Yeah.
So the next thing he does automatically to release those mini stressors is to walk. And I don't touch his leash. The dog should have at least long leash so he can move freely around so he doesn't, accumulate his stressor and become stuck.
Good.
Which is
And now
what
you see
happens.
how it changed his behavior. It's kind of like softer about stuff.
And now I
As soon as
proceed
he
to the third
recognized that
level.
I'm giving him space.
Now, before we establish our relationship, then we kind of set up the rules. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up some more, some rituals and some, routines.
He softens up a little bit. So you see the trajectory. The more he feels like there is a communication coming in, the calmer he feels like. Right? Mm-hmm. Good.
I really admire you for holding on for 2 hours. There you go.
See?
Did you see that? Now, I took that. So remember what I told you before? A dog shakes his paw because he wants.
See? Yes.
And I took that as a signal because he did it before. Let me go to that point here.
In that case, he could also go forward.
Here.
Right? Mm-hmm. Good.
Now, watch this.
Okay. Good.
Good. So what I did now is, hey, what if I push a little bit further? Already I could predict his behavior. That's the important part of doing this, holistic approach is you can start predicting behaviors that will be in the future based on observations that happened in the past. So observing is what you do in the first aspect. Start seeing the patterns of that relationship, how he builds up a relationship, how does he build trust, what are his gestures. So I told him to come and he give me a paw. I'll take that. That's his gift. I'll take that gift and I give it back to him.
Good. See? Yeah.
Here you go. I just gave it to him.
Yes. See? Good. Touch.
Oh, that's what he knows about. He knows about it.
Good. Sit. Shake.
I don't use your touch too, you know. That's right. Paul?
Now the rules that I set him is I ask things once, one action, one command, one question, one answer.
I know, right? Good.
You'll talk.
So did you see how I respond to his stress?
Shake.
I don't use your touch too, you know. That's right.
He got stuck.
I know.
Okay, now since he told me I'm frustrated, I'm like, hey, it's just a game. So my emotional feedback is important to him. So I give him that emotional feedback honest. I was scared? Not really. Was I want to play with him? Sure, I want to play with him, but I'm still standing my place and I'm standing into my power. I'm not letting go of that. I'm not claiming his space. I'm just claiming my space.
All right. Good.
You'll talk for treats. We'll go
Pop.
to him.
Good. 2 paws. That's
Wrong direction.
Sit. 2 paws. 1, 2. Yeah, there you go.
Good. And that's on. So we built up a pretty good relationship. We did all these fancy things, and I wish we had more time. I think I overkilled it here. I don't know you guys. Some of you want to go to bed, and some of you guys will wake up in the morning and want to watch that video. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop it here, I guess. Unless you guys have more questions. Good. I'm gonna wait a couple of minutes and then I turn the video off. You're welcome, guys, to reach me out on my website, holisticdoctoring.org. I do have a mentoring program for professionals. I have a brainstorming type of situation. I'm not telling you I'm smart and you're not. It's really about sharing my experience and how I get to this point, working with really aggressive dogs without the use of shock collars, prong collars, choke collars, really building the relationship. And I also have a modality going through a healing aspect. So this dog went through a reconnective healing practice. And since that session, the dog is not 24/7 in his crate anymore. And he's being outside because I taught the people how to build it attachment relationship and start building that trust back, because both trusts were broken. We had another aspect that worked in the background against us is the female dog that was not in the picture was in heat, and he was even more weird about stuff. Now the heat is over and the things are even much more better than already was there. So I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I wish I had more time for you to share. And welcome to reach out to me. We can talk about stuff. So let's stop that video here. Stop sharing. And the same approach. Let me see if you guys really want. Okay, maybe I'll pull another video that I have from a rescue shelter rescue. Yeah, that little fella. I can show you that exercise here. By the way, what I did before. That's another aspect. I use a method that maybe you guys want to look at if you want to imitate or create your own personal version of it. Okay, here it is. So this little fella that you see here is a little pit. He bites people if he doesn't get his way, and he also bites other dogs in his family for not getting his way. Let's meet the guy. What's his name? Kenai. So this is Kenai.
Hi there.
Voila. You see already how he responds. He's really pushy about stuff. And, of course, there's not much control here. But you can see how intense he is. He literally is kind of like he's not really in his body there.
What do you got? What do you got?
You see his hackles and his tail very...
So far we didn't have a jump. Oh, here we go.
Very controlling. So that is a disorganized behavior.
Dogs. There you go. See, that's easy. Good. So what are we struggling with?
So I never really did any behavior training with
Okay.
him or anything. But
Okay, I spare you the story. So the dog didn't have any training. She has people coming over, and the dog is more and more reactive to stuff, to the point that a couple of friends were bitten already, and I was hoping not to be the next candidate of the bite. He bit his friend here, and he's already safe behind the gates for just being himself. And so what we did next was start working with him.
He's like, is there a treat? I'm perfect.
Yeah, and he gets super hyper focused on
put all
stuff.
onus on him to go meet the dog.
So got over here. And that turned out the other one is how he is really because get things in a different way. Because right now, when he wants something, he's really super intense. Okay. So we also will check out how his brain functions.
So right now I'm doing an evaluation just the same way I did with a Doberman. Now we don't have a crate. We have one-on-one interaction, but the same applies. I use something similar to Bud. In that case, I will have two treats. I'm going to split something that he really likes.
There are three stages of the brain. Likely to go for it. Call it also prey drive.
Oh, hold on. You cannot hear it because I didn't share the audio. So let me do that to make sure it's on. I don't know why I have to pick it all the time again and again. Sorry for that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work him through the process of creating a mini trigger
Or fight drive. The other one is stay away
and
from it.
establish to see what he will do.
And the
Will
other
he
one is
like to
freeze.
engage with it? Does he want to walk away from it? Or likely to get freeze with it?
What's the predominant thinking process?
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let him smell it.
Problem, I'm pushing it. Okay? So now we teach him, you cannot take them both, but there's another option to get them, find it. And now I let his brain go through a process.
Hold on, I think I missed a whole step here. Here you go. So the first thing I'm going to do is, here's the exercise. Take two treats and let the dog smell it. You need high value treats, but always take your own judgment how high those is. You don't want to trigger the dog's trauma or aggressive behavior or resource guarding. So you want to choose your treats to that point that you can feel comfortable, you can control the situation.
Let him smell these treats.
And then once the dog smells the treats, you split the treats in two directions, the right and the left. Now, from a dog's perspective, the dog has the same thing, the same smell in two different directions. Now, the dog has a preferred direction. So this dog starts with left. So he's a lefty. So you can use that lefty idea into introducing him things that he likes, starting from the left and not from the right. So approaching dogs from the left, meeting people from the left. So the next thing is, if this doesn't work, he's going to go to the right.
Two options, right?
So if he checks in with me, he would get both. So let's look at that again.
Him how to get things in a different way. Because right now, when he wants something, he's really super intense. Okay. So we also will check out how his brain functions. There are three stages of the brain. Likely to go for it. We call it also prey drive or fight drive. The other one is stay away from it. It's flight drive. And the other one is freeze. That depends on how.
So again, now what I do, hold on, I know things happen so quickly here. So I smell the treats, divide the treats in two, wait for the dog to check in with you. Watch that. 3, 2, 1, done. There.
Good.
Okay? Now, the first round, he checked in with me. He got the 2 treats. The second round is what you saw right now. Let's watch that again. Things go very quickly here. He's a very smart dog.
Or I'm staying out of it if I have a problem. There's definitely a pusher. You can see that here, right? So we're going to teach him a little bit an alternative to that. So I let him smell the treats and then I give him an option. Now she has 2 options, right treat and the left treat. Now he has to find out how to get both. Good.
So right now, the dog established a relationship with me. Before, he had a relationship with the treats, right? Right treat, and then a relationship with the left treat and the right treat. And then he says, wait, that doesn't work. I should change my relationship. And now he builds a relationship with me. And building a relationship with me, meaning is he has to align his brain and his body with me, because that's how you bond. Is it a secure attachment relationship? No, but it's a foundation of it.
Okay.
But you will be surprised how far we get.
Take them both, but there's another option to get them. Find it.
Okay.
And now I let his brain go through a process to find a better way out of it.
Now, I repeat the session. Every time you repeat that exercise, you start from scratch. Let the dog trigger with his nose, see what he wants, then split that relationship in 2, and you become the problem solver. Dumb. Right? Like that. And you see my feedback. I changed my facial expression. I changed emotionally my appreciation. I said the word good, and he got the 2 treats, and he gets affection. So you have 3 rewards. The food reward that he wants, that's a motivation. Affection, which you pair it with. Then you have the word good, you pair it with. And then you have the word good as a marker, and the facial expression as a marker, and your appreciation as a reward. So 3 rewards and 2 markers in one shot. That's a jackpot.
Add additional reward. So he gets the treat, he gets the petting, and I add also a verbal command, a marker. It's good. Good equals treat equals petting equals appreciation.
Yeah.
Okay? Ready? Good.
Now, what I'm rewarding here is emotional state. When the dog calms down.
You see how he's turning his head?
And you see how frustrated he gets easily quickly if he things don't get his way, but we already established a relationship. Instead of biting me, he's backing off.
Now he gets frustrated. I need a little bit of his self-control. So I'm good. So when he wants kind of like, I need it, I want him to kind of set back a little bit, because that's not how he get it.
So what I trigger the dog is to create a situation where he has to make a decision. Whose fault is it that you don't get the treat? And I want the dog to check in with himself instead of blaming me for that. The reason why I'm not giving you the treat is because you haven't done something that I feel offended by. So I'm creating an emotional relationship, telling him how I feel so he can adjust accordingly, because his intention is to release me of my pressure so I can release him of his pressure. So it's kind of a 2-way emotional communication here. And that's a healing process. You see that part? Remember the previous dog where he was afraid to get closer? Now, literally, I'm start moving his stressors out.
Now you see how he gets tense. So you can see all these wrinkles, his ears, his body language, his tail. Good.
So some dogs express themselves through verbalization, some dogs through movement, some dogs through shaking it off. So each dog, depending on how intense and how deep the stressors is, they move this through those expressions.
You're almost there. Also, you see his front leg. The front leg is a little bit forward. Yeah. Okay? I'll wait for his front leg to go back.
There you go. So now what he did, he pushed me, I froze, I sent him a message, I feel discomfort right now. So we have this emotional communication going on, and then he backs away from me because he doesn't want me to have a trauma. He doesn't want to harm me. He doesn't want me to feel bad. So he offers an alternative behavior because he was able to think through the process. So that's a healing process. A dog thinking through a process instead of reacting because his body told him to is already a healing aspect, and you have to reward that. It's important for you to check in on that all the time to make sure the dog does exactly that, healing through this process. Now, this is the same session, the same day, okay? Couple of minutes later, we have an hour session, so we did 45 minutes in the house, and then we went outside. So one thing that we probably have a problem with that dog is he attacks the neighbor horses in the neighbor property. So one problem is to teach him a recall. So basically, I walked him through the process to teach him loose leash, at the same time teaching him some recall.
Would you like his harness and his?
Well, you'll be the cameraman if you want.
Sorry, I just had to.
So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm teaching him come. Come is him following me.
So now I'm pairing emotions with a word and consequences.
And he gets the reward. That come, I will turn into let's go. Okay? Come. Let's go.
Note, choose your biscuits wise. I got out of my own treats, so I borrowed their treats, and they were just hard broken biscuit. I had a hard time cutting them off. But now what we do is we take that relationship we built inside the house and we take it outside of the house.
Good. Come. Let's go. And gets him the treat. Let's go means you're behind me, we're going in the same direction, same speed, doing the same thing. Come. Let's go. Good. Come. Let's go. And reward. Come. Let's go. Let's go.
So you see how quickly I fade out the treats. Really, it's really about what we're doing right now. Yes, food is a motivation, but also our interaction is a motivation. So doing things with me is a motivator, and the food is a bonus.
Let's go. Let's go. Good. Now, when go. Wait. Good. Wait means I stop, you stop. Let's go. Wait. Good. Come. Sit. Let's go.
So what happened is unexpected change. I did it on purpose, and what he did, he responded with a bark. So everything that happens unexpectedly, he barks about it, which is great, better than attacking.
Wait. I don't need sit. I can ask sit after the wait. Wait is kind of like hold your breath, don't do anything until some.
Now, why I want this video? Because what we created inside and what we reinforced outside, now 2 minutes later, after we are outside and after 40 minutes inside, all of a sudden we have an emergency. Heat just triggered by another horse that went just in the yard next door, which we have a problem with because he attacks those horses. And that relationship that we built up so far happened the following.
Something else comes.
He runs off.
Look, come.
And I got him back.
Did you see what I did? He got distracted. Look, pay attention. And the follow-up command.
Why? Because we have established a relationship. Because he trusts my information. Because he knows my information is more important for something that eventually has an outcome or maybe not. So, I think I'm done for today. Okay, guys. Your questions. Perfect, Jen. Do that. Now, that 2-treat exercise, Jen, has 3 levels. The first level is to teach the dog to make a choice. The second level is for the dog to recognize that your emotion matters and how you feel about the situation matters. And the next thing you want to do is you want to teach the dog that your relationship and the way he makes you feel is important. So now we ask the dog in the second level to look for how you feel and respond to your emotions instead of just to the treat. So if you feel so intense, then he needs to remove the pressure off of you. Now we both sides try to avoid causing trauma. All the situations, everything, all the interactions between the dogs is to increase as maximum as possible the dog to become experienced and build relationships to the minimum amount of trauma. And to stop trauma from happening, aggression happens. So aggression happens to stop trauma from happening. And if it happens, then the dog has stuck aggression and stuck behavior. And your goal as a therapist or as a behavior therapist is to start identifying those individual triggers and start removing layer by layer, time by time, and start creating a whole training program about how to release those individual triggers around your dog's trauma. I so appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for holding on for 2 hours. I really wanted to make it shorter, but it's impossible. My intensive workshops are weekends, Friday 2 hours, Saturday 4 hours, and Sunday 4 hours, and with breaks. And we go through the whole system of that particular what we did kind of in a 2-hour shortcut. So thank you for watching. If you guys want more of that, welcome to message me, and I can share with you a couple of events that I'm planning to do, and I'm happy to adjust them according to your questions. So thanks a lot. I will check in later with the questions. Sorry, I know you guys will have a lot of questions after you watch it, and I'm open to reply to them. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your evening.